Hey guys, good morning. So we talked previously about simplifying the power of a product, which is what we're going to review a few of these with our do now. And today we're going to talk about what's called the power of a power, right? So we learned that we have a power of a product. So this is the product of 5 and c raised to the second power. That we're essentially going to raise each of the factors, the 5 and the c to the second power, which in this case should give me 25c squared. Here I'm going to raise my negative 5 to the third power, and I'm going to raise my x to the third power, and that's going to give me negative 125x squared, and maybe we'll do one more. We'll say this is going to be 6 to the third times a to the third times b to the third. So 6 to the third is 216, a cubed, b cubed. Now sometimes, and if we look at all of these examples here, right, we see plenty, in some cases, lots of variables and a coefficient inside the parentheses. We haven't seen any exponents. So we need to consider what happens if we have exponents inside the parentheses and outside the parentheses. So what do, right? So when I ask this in class, I usually get 3 answers. Someone will want to add them, someone will want to multiply them, and someone will want to raise 2 to the 5th power. So remember, all of our laws of exponents can be proved using expansion. So this is 5 powers of x squared. So I'd really be multiplying x squared by itself 5 times. And of course, each of those x squareds, in turn, is x times x. So altogether, I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 powers of x. So what did we do? We multiplied the powers. Now, why are we multiplying the powers? Well, we multiply them because the outside power tells us how many of the inside powers we have. We have 5 groups of x squared, each of which is 2 powers of x, so 5 times 2 is 10. And there is your power of a power property. So you can pause this and get it into your notes. All right, so then we can move on. So x squared to the third. Right, I have 3 powers of x squared, so I've got x to the 6th when I multiply the powers. I've got negative 6 powers of x cubed, so when I multiply the powers, it gives me x to the negative 18th, otherwise known as 1 divided by x to the 18th. 2 to the 4th to the 3rd, again, I've got 3 groups of 2 to the 4th, so when I multiply the powers, it gives me 2 to the 12th. I've got 4 powers of 5 squared, which is 5 to the 8th. And again, I'll remind you the same thing, guys. I generally go through the videos much faster than I would in class because you have the ability to pause and to go back and grab your notes and such. All right, so now we're starting to incorporate multiple properties. So I've got 5x squared as being cubed. So we need to think about what we learned about power of a product as well as power of a power. So I need to raise everything in the parentheses to the third power. So I need to do 5 to the third power. But I also need to do x squared to the third power, which requires that we multiply the powers. And now I've got 5 cubed is 125x to the 6th. Here I've got to do negative 3 to the 4th. And I also have to do x to the 5th to the 4th, which requires that I multiply the powers. And the quantity negative 3 to the 4th is 81, so 81x to the 20th power. So again, this is incorporating power of a product as well as the power of a power property that we talked about today. All right, this one I'm not going to go so far, right? In other words, I'm going to raise everything to the 5th. So I've got 9 to the 5th times x to the 5th, and y squared to the 5th, I multiply the powers. Now this one I'm just going to leave because 9 to the 5th is an enormous number. Now this next one is a little tricky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this using a coefficient of negative 1. So now I know what I have to do. I have to raise everything, including the negative 1 to the 4th. So this is really negative 1 to the 4th. A to the 3rd to the 4th, I multiply the powers. B to the 4th to the 4th, I multiply the powers. Negative 1 to the 4th is positive 1, so a to the 12th, b to the 16th. Now, if you can't wrap your head around that, really what you're going to do is you're going to multiply that whole thing by itself 4 times. And what you would see is you would have 4 negative expressions, right? So any pair of negative expressions, the product is going to be positive, which proves that our final answer should be positive. And then it's just a matter of multiplying the powers of each variable. This actually is going to be significantly more challenging. So now we're kind of incorporating everything. We've got power of a power, we've got power of a product, we even have product of powers, we even have multiplying monomials. So for this first one, I'm going to keep this as is for now. And now I'm going to use my power law, right? So now I'm going to have to do 3 to the third, which is 27. I'm going to do x to the third. And I'm going to do y squared to the third, which tells me to multiply my powers. Now let's see where we're at here. Well, my coefficients are 1 times 27 is 27. X to the 6 times x to the third. We're going to go back to about a week ago or a few days ago when we add the powers. And I'll add the powers of y as well. Now this one down here really has a little bit of everything. So I've got 2 to the 4th, which I'm going to leave as 2 to the 4th. I know I evaluated it, the 27 above, but I have good reason for doing this. I've got a to the 5th to the 4th is a to the 20th. I've got b cubed to the 4th is b to the 12th. Now what's going to happen here? Well, I've got 2 to the negative 3rd, which again I'm going to just leave like that for now. I've got a to the 3rd to the negative 3rd, which is a to the negative 9th. And b to the 4th to the negative 3rd is b to the negative 12th. So let's see what we're left with here. Well, 2 to the 4th times 2 to the negative 3rd, when I add the powers, is just 2 to the 1st, so I'll call it 2. A to the 20th times a to the negative 9th, when I add the powers, is a to the 11th. B to the 12th times b to the negative 12th is b to the 0, which is 1, so I don't write anything. So after all of that is said and done, we're really just looking at 2a to the 11th. All right, guys, there's your now try. So I know we're all going to pause the video and come back. So this first one, I'm going to multiply the powers. And I'm probably going to express it as a fraction as well, 1 divided by x to the 14th. For the next one, I've got to do 3 to the 3rd power, which is 27. And then I'm going to do x to the 4th to the 3rd. So we're going to multiply the powers. Here I'm going to do negative 2 to the 4th. So when I multiply negative 2 by itself 4 times with the parentheses. So if you're using your calculator, make sure you do negative 2 to the 4th in parentheses, as in that. All right, if you put negative 2 to the 4th with no parentheses, your calculator is going to give you negative 16. And now a to the 6th to the 4th, I multiply the powers. B, which is b to the 1st to the 4th, is going to be b to the 4th. And here's another kind of tricky one. So x to the 7th to the 2nd is x to the 14th. Y to the negative 5th squared is y to the negative 10th. My second expression is going to give me x on its own to the 3rd, which is x cubed. And then y cubed multiply the powers is y to the 9th. Well, x to the 14th times x cubed is x to the 17th. Y to the negative 10 times y to the 9th is y to the negative 1st. Let's go a little bit further and express this as a fraction where y to the 1st gets dropped to the denominator. Okay, guys, so there's your homework. All right, pretty straightforward. 6 and 7 are a little bit tricky. I'd like you to try your best. I'm pretty sure that we can handle these. And for number 8 is actually a really easy one. You're just going to kind of multiply all the powers. So any questions, comments, concerns, as always, you upload your work on Google Classroom, post some comments, and we can talk about it there.